Hope I am audible and screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, miss.
Thank you for the confirmation. So let me introduce myself to the audience. So my name is Mitali Hota. I am from Odisha. I am the Red Hat certified architect level 2 and the instructor of complete open source solution. I have more than 8 years experience in Linux and open source technology. As my favorite distribution is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, I did my certification on Enterprise Linux version 6 on the year 2014. And in 2021, I upgrade with the latest version of Enterprise Linux 8 to take the training to the next level. Including this, I completed my certification on automation configuration management tool, let's say Ansible and Puppet, and also be part of that training and delivery. Uh, Next, I also exposed to the Red Hat OpenStack Cloud and certification on the older version. Recent version is 16, but I got certified on version 10, and still the certificate is valid. So I don't open to that training and delivery part. I'm delivering, last but not the least, I can say here, since 3 years, I am delivering the training on OpenShift container platform. In 2017, I exposed to the container platform 3.5 version, and I completed my certification on 3.9 version. Then in 2020, I upgrade myself in version 4.2, and 4.5 is the recent version is going on, but market the OpenShift version is already in month of July. It is coming 4.8, but as a part of training and delivery part, Red Hat is using the still the 4.5 exam and certification is a course based training and delivery, and I prepared the webinar session with the version OpenShift container platform 4.5. That's all about me. As for my personal life goes, I have been blessed with a beautiful family, husband, and a daughter. And on a side note, I am going to say here, I love to play chess. That's all about me. So here, I'm just presenting a slide in front of you that is OpenShift. And I just added tagline over there. OpenShift is nothing but a better way to develop and deploy the containerized application. So in this webinar, we have to just introduction to OpenShift. What is OpenShift? Why OpenShift, and why it is a better way to develop and deploy the containerized application. We must have to know what exactly containers and containerized application. Then I differentiate between how this terminology OpenShift and Kubernetes are introduced in the market, and what is the comparative difference between the OpenShift and Kubernetes, and what are the advantage, okay, what are the features of OpenShift we are going to discuss, and what are the course curriculum, duration, certification program. These all things we have to cover in this session. Okay. So let's start. I hope just anyone confirm me. Slide is visible to all of you, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks for your confirmation. So our course objective and structure is we have to know what is OpenShift, why OpenShift, what is the declarative architecture, because the important part of any tool, if you learn any DevOps tools or automation tool or any container orchestration tool, architecture is very important. And next I have to discuss some imperative and declarative commands, and what are the resources and what are the driving factors take the OpenShift to the next level. So these are our agenda today. So before starting going with the OpenShift definition, I just go to the slide for this course curriculum. The prerequisites and the audience needed for this course is they have to complete knowledge of containers and Kubernetes. The basic knowledge of containers they must have, and it's a part of RHEL 8 training program also. And a specific course is designed that is called DO 180. Before joining the administrator 2 course DO 280, that equivalent knowledge is required. Certification is optional, not mandatory. And the second thing is required the Red Hat certified system administrator course and equivalent knowledge. You have to fundamentals of all the Linux like package management, user group management, job scheduling, I can say networking, okay, AC Linux, firewall kinds of thing. You have a hands-on knowledge, and if you are done with the certification, that is quite good for this course curriculum. So before starting the OpenShift, I have to give some idea on container. So what exactly container is? Because earlier, if I can say 5-10 years back, we are deploying our application on top of the physical host, right? 5-10 years back, there is no terminology called containers. Okay, then we are moving towards the virtualization on top of the virtual machine. We are deploying our application. Then what is container? What the problem is happen in the traditional management, traditional operating system or virtual machines? So why we have to go for containers? I want to hear from the audience, what exactly the challenge in the traditional application deployment. If you can participate, that's quite good.
I think the fundamental aspect of moving to virtualization is that while we certify a code base on a system which is very specific to a individual on on a development platform, and when we take that piece of code after a developer does the packaging and we take it to the other system, maybe it's a SIT or UAT, other business environment that we have, and there we see the challenges that some of the compatibility issues, the compilation is failing, application is not able to come up in a state that is expected. So virtualization, it's come up with a concept that if we package everything what is developed on a development platform and then take that as a package and then run it on any of the hosted environment.
Thanks. Such a nice explanation. May I know your name?
This is Subham here.
Yeah, Subham. Thank you. Thank you, Subham. Exactly what he explained. It's such a nice explanation. I just put a slide over here. So, for example, what Subham is telling, I'm just showing you with an example so that it is easy to understand. Consider a Python application that required, you can see my picture here. I'm mentioning the traditional operating system. Okay, so in the traditional operating system, the hardware components are connected, and in the host operating system, there are some libraries, binaries, dependencies, all the things are loaded on top of host operating system. And then on top of that, you are running your application. Consider a Python application that requires access to a common share library and implements on a TLS protocol. Traditionally, system administrator install the required package that provide the shared library before installing this Python application. But what is the major drawback to the traditionally deployed software application is that the application dependency, what the point they added here, Subham is already added, the application dependencies are entangled with the runtime environment, and the application may break when the updates or the patches applied to the based operating system. When we are applying any updates or patches, we are changing anything in the operating system, it will impact to my application. For example, let's say my operating system update to the TLS shared library removes from version 1.0 as a supported protocol. This break the deployed Python application because it is written to use the TLS 1.0 protocol for the network request. But when you are changing the OS update to the TLS shared library, you remove the TLS 1.0, your Python application, what is running on top of your base operating system, that application is breakdown. Okay, so what we have to do, generally system administrator forces to roll back the OS update to keep the application running. Our job is application is up and running, and if it is not supported, then what we have to do, we have to again roll back to the OS update to keep the application running and preventing other application from using the benefits of the updated package. What are the other application running on top of host operating system, they're not getting the benefits of TLS 1.0. If it is removed, what are the other benefits the applications are not getting? So this is the major issue, because the applications or dependencies are entangled with the runtime environment. So once any changes is happen to any updates or patches are applied to the base operating system, there is the challenge is coming. So how we have to resolve? So again, I back to the slide here. Okay, so I can show you that picture over here. So here in this picture, I just compare the traditional process with the containers versus virtualization. So my left side picture here, you can see this is the traditional method, how we are deploying the application. Then the solution is coming with the virtualization. So virtualization is what? On top of the single operating system, you can run multiple operating system. These virtual machine 1 and virtual machine 2 are the operating system. When you are running multiple operating systems simultaneously and the task is isolated from each other, this operating system is not impacted with this operating system. So virtualization is what? On top of single operating system, you can run multiple operating systems simultaneously, and the task is what? Isolated from each other. So this is the same. If you can see, containers also do the isolation, but how this virtualization is achieved? You people know that you are using VMware, okay, or you are using Oracle VirtualBox. In Linux operating system, you are using kernel virtual machine, or with the help of the hypervisor software on top of the physical machine or host operating system, you are loading your virtual machine. So what is the difference between, if you see the picture of containerization? Okay, so container is what and how it different from the virtualization? So in the picture of virtualization, I enable the multiple operating system to run simultaneously on a single hardware platform, and it uses a hypervisor on top of my host operating system. It uses a hypervisor to divide the hardware into multiple virtual hardware system and allowing multiple operating system to run side by side. And what the virtualization will do? It required again to run this application one, it required a complete operating system environment to support your application. But as compared to virtualization, I move towards the containers. Okay, because first slide I mentioned, OpenShift is a better way to develop and deploy the containerized application. So containers run directly on the operating system. If you can see the picture here, so it's sharing the hardware and OS operating system resources across all the containers. So what your application is required, what is for running a Apache application or running any middleware application or running any PHP application, Java application, or any database application, what is required for your application? What are the library dependency binaries? Okay, it just carry as a container. For example, what you required preferable lunch for you? You need chapati or rice, that you have to decide that, okay, if I put that much thing in my lunch box, so it is satisfied. Okay, this is my container I carry, so this is my lunch I have to take. Similarly, application, the containers run directly on the operating system. It's sharing the hardware and the operating system resources across all the container 1, container 2 on the system, and it enable the application to stay lightweight and run parallelly. It is similar your virtualization, it will do the network isolation, storage isolation. Okay, but thing is there, it is share the hardware and OS operating system resources across all the container on the system. To run your application, what is required? What is the library is required? What are the runtime binaries is required? What is the static data files is required? What is the configuration settings is required? It is bundled in the container itself. Okay, it's here the same operating system kernel, but here in virtualization, one more operating system you have to install with the help of hypervisor or VMware, Oracle VirtualBox, okay, like such things. But it's here the common operating, same operating system kernel, and isolate the containerized application processes from the rest of the system and use any software compatible with that kernel. And it required very less resources as compared to your virtual machine, which also make them to start and stop the containerized application easily we can start a container, stop a container, because it consume very low footprint hardware, memory consumption, CPU, storage less as compared to what virtual machine. Clear? Okay, so now this I mentioned a note here. So container is nothing but virtualization of application instead of hardware. Containers are isolated application runtime, created very little overhead. Containers doesn't require any dedicated CPU, memory, and network managed by base operating system. And it optimizes the infrastructure for speed and density. So if you are going to define, okay, so you can define as a operating system perspective, container is nothing but a process. Container is just a process which is running inside the sandbox, and the container processes are completely isolated from your host operating system. How it is host operating system? In the sense, host operating system terminology means either it is a physical machine, or it refer to the virtual machine, or you can say any private or public cloud based instance. Container basically deploy anywhere. So container is a feature, container is a process or technology provided by the Linux kernel. And how it is isolated from the host operating system? With the help of namespace. The Linux kernel feature namespace do the process isolation, means container process isolated from your host operating system. Like you can say the user ID, you can say the interprocess communication, IPC, you can say the network. Everything of your containerized application is isolated from your host operating system with the help of namespace. So who will manage the container resources? The Linux kernel feature, that is nothing but C group, or you can say control group. When we create a container that consumes some memory, that consumes some CPU, that consumes some storage, okay, it consumes some system resources, network device or block IO devices. So these all things are managed by the kernel feature control group. Next, come to the security. How my application run in a secure way on top of host operating system? The security is come with the AC Linux feature. We are giving, like in our basic administrator part, we are giving port level security, file context we are checking by enabling the AC Linux. Similarly, here also in containerized application is secure, run in a secure manner with the help of AC Linux, or in the advanced module of container security course, 4 to 5 course, you have to know what is security SecComp. Okay, you have to discuss about they are more on the security vulnerabilities, or capabilities, or this all kind of thing. The container is running in a secure way. So as a definition of operating system perspective, you can say container is just a process. Container is just a process. But when I come to the administrative perspective, my definition is change here. As a system admin perspective, I can say container is just an application. Container is just an application. Application can be Java, application can be Perl, application can be Node.js, any database application like your MySQL, PostgreSQL, which is portable on different environment. Application can be deployed on the physical machine, on the virtual environment, or any private and public cloud based environment. So you can add a note here. Portability is the beauty of container. We can build and save the container application anywhere, anytime. Why? Because it consumes very low footprint hardware, very less resources, CPU, memory, virtual memory, all these things as compared to your virtual machine containerized application, because it will not add all the layer. What is required for your application, it is bring that one. Okay. And as a developer perspective, operating system perspective, we can define container is just a process. As a system admin perspective, we can define container is just an application. But when the point come to the developer perspective, how we are packaging the application, how we are building the application, means how we are defining the code dependency. That is how we are building the images. Okay, the image is having its own universal format, custom image is there, application image is there. So you can use the Docker files. Inside that you have to mention all the dependency, okay, all the application. So how we are packaging the application, okay. So Docker file, how we start up the instruction to build the app. So as a developer perspective, how we are packaging the application, what are the tool we are using to manage the containers, only Docker or Podman, what are the different container engine is there, how we create a container image. But why? Because containers are running on top of host operating system with the help of a container image. Okay, so that is all about the containers. And how we are managing the container, we are managing the container using the tool called Docker, or now RHEL 7.6 version onwards, Red Hat introduced a tool called Podman. And you are in the basic containers course, you have a hands-on exercise on the Podman utility. Next, okay, before jumping to the day-wide schedule of the training, I have to, what is OpenShift? So what are the drawbacks? I can run the containerized application. Even if in OpenShift also, I am deploying one containerized application. So why not Docker? Why not Kubernetes? Why OpenShift? What is OpenShift? Any idea you want to share? What are the problem you are facing in the container orchestration? Anyone? Yes? What are the challenge, what are the DevOps challenge you are getting, so that you have to switch to manage the or deploying the container application on top of OpenShift platform? Yes, please.
Security is the more concern.
Okay, absolutely fine. Security is the more concern. Okay,
Complexities.
exactly, complexities is there if multi containers are running.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, cool. Anyone else? Okay, great. So
Inbuilt
complexity.
YAML files.
Yes, pardon.
Yeah, and easy to develop any application. CI/CD pipe is inbuilt.
Okay, integration CI/CD pipeline is there. Okay, yes, to continuous integration, continuous deployment. Okay, some added point I just make a noted. Okay, so just think about that. What are the challenges for multiple containers? Okay, so how you are scaling your application? First point, how to scale. Okay, how to avoid the port conflict in the Docker or Podman. If you are knowing what exactly container, and in your uh, real-time environment when you are using some uh, port forwarding or port mapping method, so if multiple containers are there, how you have to understand which one your application, how to avoid the port conflicts, how to manage them in multiple host. My container is running on different host operating system, so how I have to communicate with them. What happen if the host is in trouble, you are running in a particular VMs or particular operating system and that node get down, so how you have to monitor. Okay, how to keep them running into 24 into 7, how to update them. Okay, so to monitor the entire cluster, if a node goes down, if my container die, who is going to bring up my application? Okay, so if my container is running in two virtual machine, okay, multiple containers are running, is it possible to communicate? How? So Docker can create a containerized application, or Docker can orchestrate a container, all right. But Docker is inherently not capable of orchestrating a containerized application. Means if your Tomcat, let's say a Tomcat and a database server also working together in a cluster, inherently Docker by itself was not capable of that. uh, they can communicate. Okay, later the Docker is come with a solution with Docker Compose, but which again not a professional solution as such. So when a container die, we expect that when a container someone delete, okay, someone Docker stop command, Docker rm command, podman stop or podman rm command they're using, when a container is die, we expect that automatically a new container will come up, because that is the necessity of a enterprise class application. A Docker has not capable of auto healing. Multiple replicas cannot do auto scaling with the help of the Docker. So what is the solution? Solution is Kubernetes, and OpenShift itself a Kubernetes distribution as such. So if Kubernetes will do, Kubernetes powers the deployment, and in the picture also we are mentioning here, all of you can see Kubernetes is a container orchestration and management. Kubernetes powers the deployment and management these container images across the large cluster by providing the self healing. Automatically one container is deleted, the administrator people, developer people, they no need to worry. Okay, automatically the orchestration tool Kubernetes, it just orchestrates self healing, and it will do the auto scaling feature. Once the pod is consume all the resources, one new container is created. Okay, but what OpenShift do? So if the Kubernetes under the hood of OpenShift, we are using the Kubernetes resources. So why not Kubernetes? Why OpenShift? Okay, so OpenShift build on this technology by providing a layer of tool that abstract the underlying Kubernetes and infrastructure management task. So OpenShift generally as a platform as a service. OpenShift add the support for the developer tools. Let's say you can say it is built in integration with source control management software like your GitHub. OpenShift has built in integration with the pipeline that help the developer rapidly and consistently develop and build and test the development or deployment application. Third point, you can say OpenShift help manages the container runtime images by providing a built-in integrated registry. Okay, so what the image is not available in the public registry server, so OpenShift itself having a built-in integrated registry and give the support for any type application. Application can be anything, any middleware application or any database application. Okay, so it just helps to manage the container runtime images by providing a built-in registry. OpenShift come with the support of software-defined networking that provide a network capabilities out of the box. OpenShift is API centric, means it has a rich, well documented set of API that help easily integrate OpenShift with our existing infrastructure. And last but not the least, OpenShift provide out of the box support for the project, for the team, for the users to organize and manage the access to the application. We look each of these in depth later in our course discussion. How it will do provide what is project, what in the Kubernetes namespace, what are the added feature here, not in the Kubernetes namespace. How it will give the user role management, user and group members, how it assign the role. So security is there. What is the other authentication token? Not only the default OAuth authentication token, can I use LDAP? Can I use the Keystone authentication method? Can I use the HT password provider method? Is it's more secure because someone added the point already, security. Okay, so next, can I can I get the source code from the Git repository? Can I build one application? Can I build one container image and deploy on OpenShift platform? Yes, this all feature. Can I perform the task with the OC command line utility like your kubectl? Yes, you can use the OpenShift client. Also, you can use the task on the dashboard in our course curriculum. Clear? So these are the thing. OpenShift Kubernetes is a orchestration tool. It powers the deployment and management these Docker images across the large cluster by providing the self-healing and auto-scaling feature. But OpenShift builds on this technology by providing a layer of tool that abstract the underlying Kubernetes and infrastructure management task. Okay, so it is integrated with the SCM, S2I you can build. That is not possible with your Kubernetes. It is built in integration with the CI/CD. It is beyond the support for the project, teams, and users. Okay, and it is API centric. These are the feature OpenShift is using. Fine. So next, I have to move to my next slide where I demonstrated the architecture. Okay, an OpenShift cluster is a set of physical or virtual machine and other infrastructure. So just for a add-on, I'm saying here, OpenShift is nothing but two types of nodes are there. One you can say master node, and second one you can say worker node. Okay, so what is master node? And now in the OpenShift 4.x version onwards, we are just abbreviating the master node. Some of the admin say that control node, control plane components. That's fine, no issues. And someone abbreviate this worker node to run where we are running the containerized application. Someone say that is the compute node. Okay, so compute node or worker node, these all are the terminology we are using in the OpenShift architecture. So now here I can just mention in this slide what is the master node and what is the control plane component. I just give a small discussion here. So if you have any query, you can put your question in the chat box. So I just come individual queries. Okay. So now let me say this one. So here. So in the master node, what the component we are seeing here? We are seeing some API server, some scheduler is there, some controller manager is there, some etcd is there. And in the worker node, I am seeing some component called kubelet, and I'm getting some kube proxy server, and there is running some CRI, that is container runtime interface. I will explain what exactly that. And I can see the container runtime and some containers are running, two containers, single container, and four containers, multiple containers are running on the worker node. Okay, and these containers are nothing but what? These are nothing but the Kubernetes unit is called what? Pod. Okay, when containers are running, the how where it is running? In the node. And how in the node it is running? We are using what? The pod. Okay, so now let me move to the next slide. Okay, so the next slide here, I can see you just see in the picture. This is the OpenShift 4 architecture. So your choice of infrastructure, where you have to install the OpenShift. Infrastructure is your choice. Okay, you have to install on AWS. You want to install on VMware vSphere, or you want to install in the bare metal. You have to do the pre-existing method or full existing method. Your choice of infrastructure. Next is what? You have to workers node. You have to see here two worker node. Worker node is what? In the architecture where you have to deploy your application. Okay, where we have to deploy, where I have to run my containers and I have to segregate my workload. So that is nothing but the worker node. Next, how I have to control? This is nothing but called the master node. Okay, or you can say the control plane. Masters are the control plane. Okay, masters are the control plane. Now everything is run, whatever your containerized application, everything is run in a pod. So your image containers are running from the container image. This image you are getting from the registry server. Either it is a private registry or it is your public registry, like you can say your docker.io, registry.redhat.io. So any pub or qa.io, any public registry you can use to get the container image. And when you are running a containerized application, everything in run in a pod in your Kubernetes or OpenShift. Next is what? The first component which will store in the master node. Master node is the control plane. Okay, all the control plane components, we are controlling our cluster with the help of master node. And the state of the cluster in the sense, how many nodes are there, in which node what pod is running, what is the deployment file you are using. Are you deploying the application using the docker image? Are you deploying the from the source code getting from the git repository? Are you deploying the application or building the application, build the image from S2I, or are you using any template file? So state of everything, all the resource definition, your deployment, how many replicas are running, what is the deployment configurations file, what you mentioned, how many services are there, all the resources, what image you are using, it's stored in the all the resources definition, stored in a database in a key value format, that is nothing but called etcd. Next is what? Kubernetes services scheduler. So in the master node scheduler, you cannot say if I have a 5 node cluster, can I run my application on node 1 or node 2? Can you decide? Suppose your, let's say your application is required a 5 GB storage or to run the application. Okay, but your node 2 capacity is, I have 3 node. Okay, let me go back to this picture. Okay, suppose let's say in my worker node I have 4 or 5 nodes, but your application is 5 GB. One node is 3 GB, one node is 7 GB. Where your application will run? Your application is 5 GB, but your node capacity is what? 3 GB. Another is 7 GB. Where your application run? Which is having more resources? Yes or no? So that part, who will decide? Who will decide where your containerized application will run? Okay, you don't say that my application is run on the node 1 or node 2. So there is a component, there is a Kubernetes service called scheduler. It identifies the container need to be placed on which node based on its size, based on its capacity, how many container means how many pods are already running on that particular node. Certain condition like that node is having any tent or tent kind of thing, means it is allowing me or it is repelling me to place my application. So the scheduler is identify the right node to place the container based on the container resource requirement. So the worker node capacity, any other policy such as node affinity rules and performance, according checking all the criteria is satisfied, it will place the pod. So the scheduler will decide, not placing the pod, it will decide which node your application is running. Okay, so next is what? Control management, or you can say cluster management. What is that? So controllers are available to take care of different area. Node controller take care of node. If any node become unavailable, or I have to do any patching or version changing in any worker node, so I have to stop. No schedule, I don't make any application in this particular node, I have to do something. So how I will manage? So there is a cluster management or kube controller manager is there, that controllers are available to take care of different area. Node controller take care of your node. If the node become unavailable or get destroyed, okay, so node controller will take care. If the replication controller is decide that yes, at a particular time 5 applications are running, at all the time this 5 application, if at in case one pod is deleted automatically Kubernetes controller manager, that is called the replication controller, immediately with the help of self-healing automatically create a replicated pod. So at what is the time you can see you are decide 5 applications is running means 5 application, automatically it will scale or self-healing scale your application. That is possible with the help of replication controller or with the help of horizontal pod autoscaler that will consume. If my pod is having this much CPU limit, I have to recreate one pod. So that is different controller manager are running on your master node. Next is what? etcd is there, scheduler is there, controller manager is there. Another is mentioned what? API server. What is that API server? Kube API server. It is responsible for orchestrating all the operations in the cluster. It exposes the Kubernetes API, which is used by the external user to perform the management operation on the cluster, as well as various controllers to monitor the state of the cluster and make the necessary changes as required by the worker node to communicate with the server. So if you are coming and want to deploy any application, how you have to communicate with the cluster? With the API URL. So API server is responsible for orchestrating all the operations in the cluster. Okay.
Hello, there are two API services. One is from Kubernetes and other is from OpenShift services.
Sorry for the interruption. I have bit
Hello.
throat infection. Pardon.
Hello. There are two API services, one from Kubernetes services and other from OpenShift.
Only one. Only
But
one
in,
static pod is
but
running,
in
but
Kubernetes,
multiple
in last
masters
side,
are there.
in
Yes,
last
please.
side, in Kubernetes also have API, na? API services.
Yes, exactly. How it is different? It will run as a static pod. Okay. Kubernetes API server, what you are saying, that is a static pods. Okay. Kubernetes API server, all these are static pod. Let me go back to that picture. See here, one is the Kubernetes API server to manage all the things, and here OpenShift services. Okay, so once your all the Kubernetes API server, etcd, and your control manager and scheduler is running, then the OpenShift services are come into the work. Till the time the static pod means what? You are not creating the pod. Okay, Kubernetes is not creating the pod. That are automatically created with the help of a component called what? Kubelet. Okay, we have to discuss what is kubelet. Clear? And what OpenShift will give? OpenShift give the infrastructure services. Monitoring tool. What is the default monitoring tool they are using in 4. Or in other older version up to 3.11, you can say we are configuring a metrics monitoring system. We are using the Cassandra, Hipster, Hokular, but now at the time of installation, the monitoring tool that is Prometheus is inbuilt at the time of installation. Okay, software defined networking, internal registry, internal DNS, what is how I have to expose my application outside the cluster, what is the routing path. These all are configured as a infrastructure as a services. Okay, so OpenShift, if you tell, there are 3 types of node. One is the master node, second one is the worker node, and third one is what? Your infra node. Infrastructure consists of monitoring service. What is your storage? What kind of storage you are using? What is your software defined networking? What is the DNS? Okay, all these things are comes under the infrastructure as a services, and this is a clear cut picture. Okay, so first thing is what? In the master, all the 4 components are running. If your 4 components are not running, let me start from the scratch. First is what? API server. What is API server? User. Okay, one again I'm repeating. Users usually interact with the API server is the only interface where we developer or service or the system administrator communicate with the master. Once we make the communicate to create a container. Okay, yes please. Okay, yes please. Are you asking anything? Anyone? Okay, so API server is users usually interact with the API server. It is the only interface where we developer system administrator communicate with the master. And once we make a communication to create a container, let's say, then the API server instantly create a desired state of configuration where in the, please go mute.
on the top of the railway station.
Please go mute those who are not inviting, others get disturbed. Okay, so now when the user usually interact with the API server is the only interface where we developer and system administrator communicate with the master. And once we make a communication to create a container, let's say, then the API server instantly create a desired state of configuration in the etcd. So etcd is the database where all the configuration requirement are stored. Instantly the controller comes to know. Then once you are mentioning yes, one container to be run in the OpenShift container platform, once the controller comes to know a new desired state of requirement has come up, then the controller communicates to the scheduler that which one is the best system to orchestrate my container. Immediately the scheduler communicate with the kubelet running on the node, that is in the worker node. Okay, so how the kubelet etcd control manager, they cannot communicate directly with the kubelet. They cannot. Why? Because how they communicate then? So API server communicate with the kubelet. So kubelet is what? Kubelet is a Unix or Linux daemon like your SSHD, HTTPD. Similarly, you can manage the kubelet with the systemctl. You are start, stop, check the status. So API server communicate with the kubelet. Kubelet is an agent or it is a traditional Unix or Linux daemon that is running on all the node, on the worker node, even on the master node. All the communications routed through the API server. API server has a security token mechanism that ensure that nobody else can communicate with the kubelet. Kubelet also not communicate with anybody in the sense, not in the etcd, not with the controller, not with the scheduler. Kubelet cannot communicate directly. Okay, so it just give the report to the API server. Once the API server communicate with the kubelet for a new container, what really happen? Instantly the kubelet will ask the CRI-O, container runtime interface, which is traditionally has a Docker daemon, but it is dropped right now by Red Hat. We are using various container runtime engine. We are using either you can use Docker, or you can use Rocket, or you can use Drawbridge, or you can use LXC, Linux containers. Okay, various open container initiative. Okay, so it is check where the image is available, and once it is available, once the CRI-O is giving update, then your application is running on the worker node. So kubelet is an agent that run on each node in the cluster. It listen the instruction from the kube API server and deploy and destroy the container on the node when required. Kube API server fetch the status report periodically from the kubelet to monitor the status of the node and the containers on them. Containers are nothing but we are using the terminology pod here. In a single pod, you can run multiple containerized application, and where the pods are running, they are consuming the node resources. That node in OpenShift is called worker node or compute node. Clear? Okay.
Yeah, clear.
Okay, so this is the definition I maintained over here. So let me go back to the first picture. So this is the API server. You cannot communicate directly with the scheduler, cannot communicate directly with the container. Okay, not with the pod. Okay, how they are communicating? Kubelet is communicating with the API server. API server is the point of contact. And can you say if my kubelet is not running in the master node? All people have a mindset that only the applications are deployed in the worker node. For easy to understand, containerized applications are running in the worker node. But yes, you can run your application on the master node if there is not restriction. Not only the control plane components, not only this 4 API server, scheduler, control manager, and etcd. You can deploy in the application also in the master node, but for easy understanding purpose, master means who will control. Okay, so can you tell me if these 4 pods, API server, scheduler, control manager, and etcd, who create this pod? Generally, API server is interacting. Okay, so but what is this static pod? Static pods are managed directly by the kubelet daemon on a specific node without the API server. Unlike the pods are managed by the control plane, for example, deployment manage the replication pod. Instead of that, kubelet watches each of the static pod and restart if it is fail. So if my static pods are not ready, what will happen? If this all API server is not working, scheduler is not working, controller manager is not working, etcd is not working, is your cluster functional? Not at all. Your cluster is not operative. That's why in the production environment, multiple master, generally 3 master and multiple nodes are there. Okay. So once one master is not working, we have to schedule another master. We
If
have to.
cluster fail, if cluster fail, but nodes will work na.
How? We
Only
cannot
control,
communicate now.
no, but just only we can lost the control, but worker nodes should work.
Applications are running now, but you cannot reach to the application now.
Yeah, we can lost our control only.
Yes.
Application will
Okay.
run. Yeah.
If your scheduler will not decide where to run, your controller is not managing, what will happen? Entire cluster is not operative till the static containers or static pods they come up. Then they can create the further. Okay, they can create the OpenShift. What are the OpenShift API server, OpenShift nodes? So first thing is the 4 static pods must be running. Okay. Now, this is the declarative architecture of the OpenShift. So in older version, where you install the OpenShift? On top of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. But now what I mentioned here, OpenShift 4 version onwards, you have to run the control plane or master node only. The base operating system is what? Red Hat Core OS. What is Red Hat Core OS? Yes, because you cannot run OpenShift 4 on the Red Hat Enterprise Linux or CentOS. What we are doing earlier up to 3.11, we can run on the RHEL. Okay, we are running in the RHEL operating system. Now it is what? The first difference we can observe here, the Red Hat Core OS, and below the point is added what? Container optimized OS. What is the Core OS advantage? Core OS is nothing but the container Linux. Container Linux is an open source, lightweight operating system based on the Linux kernel designed for providing the infrastructure and cluster deployment. Container Linux redefine the operating system as a smaller, more compact Linux distribution. Traditional distribution, when packages are unused software that lead to the dependency conflict and needlessly increasing the attack surface. But core operating system run on most of the cloud provider, virtualization platform, bare metal server, core operating system also support the container runtime, all of the popular method of running container, and you can choose to interact with the containers at a low level to the higher level of orchestration work. Docker, Rocket, Drawbridge, Alexis, all the open container initiative is supported by the Red Hat Core OS. And it is very less attack surface, and master is only installed on the core operating system. It is a straight jacket. Once it is installed, you cannot write anything inside it. In the sense, you cannot edit any configuration setting on this container core OS. If you want to do any configure inside your container. So these all four are what? These are one container. These four are all are one pod. And once it is deployed in the Red Hat core operating system, it is a container Linux. It defines the operating system as a smaller and more compact Linux distribution. So in case of traditional distributions, package unused software, it lead to the dependency conflict. It just tremendously increase the attack surface, so that problems you can avoid, and you can choose to interact with the containers from low level to higher level orchestration work, at you can use the any container runtime interface. So the base operating system is Red Hat Core OS. Red Hat Core OS is a Linux distribution. Earlier CoreOS.com is a company, but now it is had by Red Hat, is a Linux distribution focused on providing an immutable operating system for container execution. On top of that, what written? CRI-O. Earlier, first difference is CoreOS and RHEL. Next is what? Container runtime interface with Open Container Initiative. CRI-O. Earlier is what? Earlier model? It is Docker. Okay, only Docker. Okay, but here CRI-O. So what is CRI-O? CRI-O is an implementation of Kubernetes container runtime interface to enable using the Open Container Initiative compatible runtimes. CRI-O can use any container runtime that satisfy. Suppose if I am writing container runtime initiative runc. Runc is what? Used by the Docker service. If I am using lippod, lippod is used by the podman. If I am using rocket, rocket is from core operating system. Okay, so CRI-O is nothing but what CRI-O will do. CRI-O is nothing but the container runtime interface. Okay, CRI-O is the container runtime interface now, but earlier model we are using what? Docker. Clear? Okay, so CRI-O and kubelet.
Currently, CRI-O, which is mostly used by OpenShift currently.
Currently we are working with the 3 registry server, and we are using mostly podman tool to manage. Okay,
Okay, Podman tool is from Red Hat only.
yes, exactly. And
Okay.
it is you want to, what is the difference, if you can ask, between the Docker and podman? The difference is what? In Docker there is a daemon is running in the background. Okay, so if you are making any changes, you have to systemctl start Docker service, systemctl stop Docker service. So Podman is a libpod utility. There is no daemonless architecture, you can say. So it's just like your Yum repository. But yes, how you are managing the container using the Docker, how you are pulling the image with the Docker pull command, how you are deploying the application using the Docker run command in a detached mode, in a interactive terminal. These all things are same. Just a name is we are substituting Podman over there. Okay. And yes, there is a security label is there, and you can run the container with a rootless. So these are the features comes in the Podman utility. Okay, and it's developed by Red Hat, supported Red Hat Enterprise 7.4 version onwards. Okay,
Okay, thanks.
so thank you. So next is what? Kubernetes. What Kubernetes will do? Kubernetes manage the cluster of host, physical or virtual, that run the container. I am saying the master must be core operating system, but I don't mention what is the worker node. Can I use RHEL 8 operating system or RHEL 7.5 onwards as a worker node? Yes. So Kubernetes is a management tool or orchestration tool. It manages a cluster of hosts, physical or virtual, that run the container. It uses the resources that describe the multi-container application composed for multiple resources, how they are interconnect. So how I have to communicate? In Docker, we are using a flat-based network, we are using port forwarding. So this how we are communicate with the kube proxy server. One application is running on the worker node 1, one application is running on the worker node 2. How they communicate? What is the proxy configure? So how I will check how many, so this container management and orchestration is done with the help of Kubernetes. Next is what? etcd. What is etcd? Etcd is a distributed key value store used by the Kubernetes to store the configuration and state of information about the container and other resources inside the Kubernetes cluster. So in the class, I will explain you each and every resource. What is pod? What is deployment and deployment config? I want to discuss what is image stream resource, what is replication controller, what is build. So all this resource definition stored in a key value format in the etcd. Next is what? CRC, custom resource definition. This is also introduced newly in OpenShift 4 version onwards. What is custom resource definition? As a system administrator, we know some environment variable are there. Environment variables are what? Predefined, coming from the infrastructure. Like if I ask what is the default cell, quickly you can say bin bash. What is the default home directory for root? Quickly you can say /root. Okay, so these are the predefined variable. Similarly, in OpenShift, we are using the Kubernetes predefined resources of OpenShift and Kubernetes are pod, the deployment configuration, the image stream, the replication controller. Okay, so the service, these all resources are predefined. So now OpenShift come with a feature that is called custom resource definition. Can a user create a resource? Yes, it is possible. How? With the help of operators. So custom resource definition are resource type stored in the etcd managed by the OpenShift, and these resource types are from the state and configuration of all the resources managed by the OpenShift. Entire thing of OpenShift you can manage with a custom resource operator. Okay, so I have to demonstrate one more demo in our day 3 schedule of our course curriculum. What exactly operator, how it will work, is it required I have to do only the custom resource or certified operator of Red Hat, or I can use any other community operator in this platform. So this all customization can I do? Yes. Okay, we have to discuss more in detail about the operators. Just for time being, I am saying a definition here. Human application knowledge. All the human application knowledge put in a code and operate it is called operator. all the time we have to follow the manual task. If you are doing a manual process, definitely it is error prone. So what I have to do, using some code ready, using some custom resource definition, we have to define the code and customize, create a operator that will control my resources of my OpenShift cluster. Next is what? Containerization.
Operator can be like as a Helm chart.
Exactly. In Kubernetes, we are using Helm chart, or what are the software development kit we are using to build the operator. Building operator in not in our course or curriculum. Use of operator is here. I will demonstrate. Exactly. It is Helm chart in Kubernetes. In OpenShift, either you are using the Ansible YAML file or you can use the Go SDK, Go language. Okay. And you can visit the operators.com. Lot of community driven operator are there, and in the Red Hat marketplace you need to get the certified operators. Okay, so your organization is a partner of Red Hat means they're using the certified operators. Okay, because it's chargeable. Yes, exactly. It is built with the Helm chart, and that is called the software development kit to build the custom resource definition. Like we are using deployment resource with the YAML file or JSON file format. I just again add a point here. OpenShift, Kubernetes, all these default file format is JSON or YAML. But yes, operator, you can use the Go language, Ansible YAML, or Helm chart. Next is what? Containerized services. Containerized services fulfill many platform as a service infrastructure function, such as networking, authorization, authentication, okay, image registry, all these things. Suppose I want to say that, can you deploy an application on my OpenShift container platform? So you must have to log into the cluster. So to log into the cluster, you must be a authorized user. You have the authentication token. How to do the authentication? In our course curriculum, HT password is there, but yes, in your organization, might they use LDAP? Might they use the token if they are deploying on OpenStack, keystone? Okay, authentication method. So various authentication method is there. How I have to expose my application outside the cluster? Okay, so that networking you should configure, image registry. So these all are in your master node. If there is no authentication method, by default OpenShift using OAuth authentication method. Next is what? Runtimes and XPath are the base container images ready-made image, I can say, ready for use by the developer. Each is pre-configured with a particular runtime language or a database. XPath is the offering is a set of base image for Red Hat middleware products such as JBoss or ActiveMQ. Red Hat OpenShift application platform. Okay, application runtime are the set of runtime optimize the cloud native application in OpenShift. The application runtimes are available are Red Hat JBoss EAP, OpenJDK, Threadneil, Eclipse, Vortex, Spring Boot, Node.js. These all we are getting with the runtime, and XPath are the base container images ready for use by the developer. Then on top of that, my Red Hat OpenShift container platform provide web user interface, command line interface management tool, that is OpenShift client for managing the user application, Red Hat OpenShift container platform services, the OpenShift web UI and the CLI tools are built from the REST API, which can be used by external tool such as IDE or CI/CD platform. Okay, CI platform I can basically say. This is the OpenShift architecture illustration from my end. Okay, and we will go in detail regarding this in our day-wise schedule. So this is the DO280 training schedule. Program is 3 days. First day we have to describe again what the we can go across the high level overview of what OpenShift is. Okay, so OpenShift is Red Hat open source container application platform for developing and hosting a enterprise grade application of various cloud computing model. OpenShift is Red Hat platform as a service offering. Once it is deployed, OpenShift will take care of managing the underlying infrastructure components, thereby enabling the developers they do what they can do best. So we have to again discuss what are the static pods, what is the use of kubelet, how we have to do a verification, how you get inside the node. So this all in our chapter 1 discussion. Okay, declarative architecture, what are the features of OpenShift, we have to cover. Then next we have to verifying the cluster. Next chapter we will come across troubleshooting. Why, if the image is not available, how I have to troubleshoot? If my node is not available, if kubelet is not running, how I have to check the status? If any container requires some permission, that sufficient permission is not there, how we have to troubleshoot and verifying each cluster component. And we are just not doing any installation in DO 280 course module. There is a separate course is DO 322 for specific installation. Okay, no exam part of that, but yes, what are the installation method are using in OpenShift, I just give a quick overview in the chapter 2. Chapter 3 we have to come across the user authentication token, how it is, how we have to edit the file, and how we are using the HT password method, and what is required for that, what, how many types of user are there, how, what is the group in OpenShift. So this all thing, how to assign the role to the user, this we have to cover in chapter 3 and day 1. Day 2 we have to deploy the application. We have to give the role based access control, authentication, authorization part. What is a role in the OpenShift cluster as a user once you log in? If there is, you are saying scale on, auto scaling is there. Can I deploy 50 replica for the application? No. Okay. So what you are, how we are providing the security, what role in which project you have, that we have to discuss in day 2 schedule. Then we are discussing brief on the software defined networking part. We are using the terminology how the service will do load balancing. Okay, and what is the node port, and we are discussing how we have to make a secure route. Okay, and how to troubleshoot if any networking issue is there and I'm not getting my application not produce any output externally, how we have to set up that one, that we cover in the networking part. Then next chapter we are discussing about the pod scheduling. As I am telling a point here, scheduler will decide. But how the scheduler will decide? What is taint and toleration? What is node selector? What are the algorithm it is using? Affinity, anti-affinity rule. What is the things to schedule the pod? How much resources are required? Okay, so how I have to mention the CPU resource, CPU request, memory request to run my application. So these all things we have to cover in the pod scheduling. Day 3 we have to discuss the scaling, manual scaling the application, auto scaling the application. And there is a performing cluster updates theory part is there, it is required for your documentation when you are upgrade from the minor version to minor version or minor version to major version. So now introduce the over the air deployment, we just come across the documentation part, but we are not doing any cluster updates. Last, whatever we learn in these 2 days, we have to perform in the dashboard. So you can appear the exam either using the command line utility or using the dashboard. So this is the entire course curriculum and structure. And yes, let me show you for the prerequisite session. So learning path, just 1 second. I have to check here. So this is the Red Hat OpenShift admin skill path. Let me increase bit font size. It's quite good now. Okay. So skill path for Red Hat certified specialist in OpenShift administrator. You must be a RHCSA recommend certification, but yes, equivalent knowledge is there means the containerized application, what is container, how to manage the container, what is container image, what is container registry server, what is the difference between Podman and Docker, how to manage the container as a service. So these all the basic things is required, and that is covered in a module called DO 180 OpenShift 1 administrator course, and it is a certification course. The certification program is 2 hours. Exam code is EX180. Okay, so the brief of what is OpenShift, what are the resources of OpenShift, what is the Kubernetes resources, what is infra node, how to deploy the application, all the things you have to cover in the 180 module, and it is a 3 days of training program. Next, we are joining here the OpenShift webinar on the DO 280 training module. This is OpenShift Administrator Level 2 course. You have to, as I mentioned, day 1, day 2, day 3 schedule. In 3 days, 9:30 to 5:30, we have to go, we just come across all the chapters in a descriptive manner: security, authentication, service account, networking, pod scheduling, troubleshooting. We have to perform on the administrative 2 course. 3 days of training program. One is for your certification program, and certification is EX280. This is also a 3 hours duration exam. Once the administrator skills is done, if you want to do the installation, the course for installation is DO 322. This is a 2 days of training program, but no certification. Just by they're giving a infrastructure, you have to deploy the application on a bare metal server, on a VMware, and what is the bootstrap, what is the ignition file, that is discussed on this module. Yes, and if you go for the development course, there is DO 288 and other courses are designed, and for that also prerequisite is 180, means basics of containers you must know. Okay, that's all about
Yeah, please.
the session.
Let me ask a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
which model is a DevOps person supposed to learn?
Okay, so have you exposed to the containers?
Yes.
Okay, then
With Docker, but not with Kubernetes.
Docker is quite good. Okay, so because 1 hour I'm before this session is started, I have to share the recording those who are not familiar with the containers. Okay, with the Podman utility, 2 to 3 hours video recording I'm going to share. Okay, next is that you have to directly join for the DO 280 course. If you are familiar with Docker, no need to familiar with the Kubernetes, because again I am taking in the day 1. I have to explain what are the OpenShift resources or Kubernetes resources we are using, and how to deploy the application in OpenShift. DO 180 module, some part I'm going to cover in 1 to 1 hour 45 minutes I have to spend before going through the next module, DO 280.
So if we register for this program, you will first of all teach us D0180 before coming to D0280.
Yes, no issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Now my question is,
Okay.
this particular 280 is